evening, everyone, and welcome to Friday Night Likes, the show where everyone competes for likes. And here he is, your venerable host, John.
Yeah, that is professional as hell. I don't know how much I've got to pay you for that one. Welcome, everybody. It's the first show of Friday Night Likes. It's a new show that we're putting up on American Hammers TV. Every Friday, we're going to come at you. These guests that we have around us here are going to compete for likes by making the most salient points to questions that I'm going to ask. I'm your host, John Nolan. Let's go around the circle real quick. Let's find out who you are, where you are, and what are you drinking? Wayne, let's start with you.
Okay, well, what I'm drinking is it's a mystery liquid tonight, but it does have some whiskey in it. Wayne Hammer, one of the original gangsters from American Hammers TV, started off with Tim and Lee way back at the beginning, and now also run a little podcast called West Ham is Why We Drink, which is why I drink.
It's a great podcast, I got to say. If any of you are not subscribed to that yet, definitely subscribe to that. I think you can find that on all channels, right, Wayne?
Yeah, you can pretty much find it everywhere. It's on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, the Tottenham Hotspurs YouTube site, pretty much everywhere.
I'm sure they love it over there. Oh, dear. Chris.
Hello. Coming from you in Erie, Pennsylvania. Relatively new here, and I will be drinking some Yuengling tonight.
Is that Yuengling Light? Is that real beer, Chris? Is that loud?
What's that?
Is Yuengling loud? Or we can?
Hey, it's the cheapest here. So.
Fair enough. And Bradley.
Cheers. I'm from New Orleans. I'm Nola Hammers on Twitter. I am drinking Bailey's on the Rocks, which I believe they call it a Ladyboy. So I'm having a Ladyboy tonight with you gents.
Oh, how lovely. They call that a Ladyboy?
Wayne hasn't had one of those since he went to Thailand. So.
Seriously, well, actually, I did spend some time over there. I do know that you're supposed to go like this before you do anything, just to make sure.
We're going to move into the questions really quick after that, everybody.
What an intro.
Thank you all for joining us. Like I said, everybody's competing for likes tonight. So what I have to determine the likes is a bare hand. A bare hand. So if you make good points, you will get the bare hand and we'll compete for points. And whoever wins will get whatever they want at the end, essentially. We're still figuring out that segment, but you can go on a 1-minute diatribe. You can make Bradley finish his Ladyboy, or, maybe you can even wager a bet for the next week with somebody. Who knows? I don't know if we're allowed to do that, but let's get into it. Question number 1. Bradley, I'm going to start with you, and then Chris, and then to Wayne. With 2 goals in 2 games and good performances in both, is Aaron Cresswell our automatic left back?
Yes, I say automatically. I say first to stick to all the people that slated him, to prove to the West Ham fans that we shouldn't betray our own when they're not in form. He's in form, doing well. I think he's got another shot in him. I love that curling foot, that curling ball. I say he's our choice.
Beautiful. Chris, what say you?
For me, I'm going a little different. I think he is at the moment until he proves he isn't. One thing that we need to work on in the squad regardless is consistency. And if you just keep chucking different guys in, it won't work. Cresswell is the clear choice at the moment for me.
That's a good point. I like that point about consistency because we complained so much that Pella was chopping and changing everything at the start of the season. So I'm kind of with you on that one. Wayne, where do you stand?
Love Aaron Cresswell. Always have loved Aaron Cresswell, probably mostly because I love singing this song. But I think we're forgetting about what a great job that Masuaku did back there. And that's why I think that it's not automatic. Yes, right now he's got the edge, but it's really, for me, it's always been about what have you done for us lately? Love every single player on the team, but sometimes you have to make the hard decision and say, somebody like Cresswell can't make it. All right. He stepped up when Masuaku was out and he's played really, really well. So, yeah, give him the start. But the first time he messes up, you know what? Keep that pressure on and let's bring Masuaku in.
Is there much between them? Let's start with you, Wayne. Is there much between those two at the minute, or is it a case of Cresswell's just scored the goals?
I think it's a case of Cresswell scored the goals, to be honest. I mean, I think he's got very lucky that he's knocked a few in. And let's face it, he's got some great service on those goals. And that's really, I mean, the last one he got really wasn't just because he is a fantastic goal scorer, although he has put in a few decent goals over the years. But I think he's got some really good service, and that is just part and parcel of the Pellegrini system, I think.
What do you think, Chris? Been easy for him?
I think the main difference between the two of them is Cresswell is definitely more defensive minded. Yes, he's scoring the goals, but Masuaku can get down the wing a little bit easier than Cresswell. And then now you throw in Roberto in goal. We're going to need every bit of defense that we can. So having another player back definitely will.
That's a big bare hand on that one, Chris. I got to say, the bear approves. Bradley.
I think both of them the same. For a while, we were arguing that Cresswell was the better defensively. Oh, he's the one that can defend. He can defend if he can defend. Then at the end of the season in this early one, Masuaku suddenly said, you know what? He actually does good defense. And if he has Felipe Anderson tracking back, then he can actually cover that area. I think the big problem was Anderson didn't learn to track back until last match. And he's really been serving Masuaku. Now, both of them cross beautifully. We know that from the Andy Carroll, Cresswell link up. And we also know that Masuaku has a beautiful foot. I like to watch Masuaku play with all that dribbling around the Spurs. So he's always fun. Of course, we do have to note that one of Cresswell's goals was a free kick. So it's not like he's going to be scoring a lot of goals all the time. That last one was a fluke. Although I say keep your players that are in form, keep them playing.
That's a good point. I think we're lucky to have this conversation right now, right? I mean, when we started the season, both left back. Yeah. I'll give myself a bare hand on that one. When we, you can't see what this hand is doing down there either. When we
I'm worried about the right hand you got down there. It's not the bare hand; it's the right hand I'm worried about.
This one is also bare.
Oh, okay.
When we started the season, we were really, really worried, both I think at left back and right back. And coming out of the gates now, the last few games, we've been pretty good. So. Let's start with you, Chris. Are left back and right back still areas of concern for this team?
For me, it's more of if there's an issue with one of the two, it's right back, and that's primarily for the reason that we're going to have to focus on it next year next summer because after this year, Zabaleta has already said that he's leaving, and so behind Fredericks is going to be Johnson. And so with such a young guy, are you going to really want him to be the backup? So we're going to have an issue with depth.
We allowed to interject? Is that rude? Is that rude to interject?
Ask Chris. Chris, do you feel?
You go ahead.
Do you feel imposed upon?
No, not at all.
We really have to give Johnson some more credit. Like he went up against Man City playing out of position and did a damn good job.
I do agree with that. Yeah,
I'd say we have to give him more of a shot. And I am not. Personally, I was beginning of the season because, of course, everybody wants to buy and spend all the money because if we don't spend, then we're scared we're not actually winning. But I think we have that. We're a big enough club to be envious of other clubs who have more money. So we keep thinking we have to spend more when we have the skills in our own academy, which is the thing for West Ham always has been. So I'm not disagreeing necessarily. I'm just saying give Johnson some more props because I think he can. I think he can take it.
What I will say too, on top of that, is it's just nice the fact that we're having like a conversation of maybe it's not as big of an issue as it's been in recent years.
Sure.
You don't need to focus on it.
Is it an issue, Wayne?
It's always an issue because of the luck that West Ham has over the years and the fact that we get injuries like they're going out of fashion. So that for me, it is an issue. And quite frankly, both sides are an issue for me. I mean, because you look at Cresswell is a natural left back. Okay, Masuaku has stepped up there and he's done a really great job. So, all right, we've got something that's decent on the left hand side. On the right hand side, it's like it's hot and cold with Fredericks from week to week. That's the way I feel about Fredericks. I think he has the potential to be a really incredible right back. But to take it back to what the guy said about Zaba, I mean, Zaba, he's maybe had one decent showing this season. As far as I can tell. I don't think he's had much more than that. And he's going to be retiring at the end of the year. And do we throw in one of the youngsters? I mean, we got very, very lucky with Declan Rice that we threw him in and he did okay. I don't know that we'd be that lucky twice. I really don't know. And I think, it's all right saying let's not splash the money around. until we start having people sprint down that side and start scoring on us. And then I think, the money is going to have to be spent. And I think it really is a position that needs, there is no natural backup to it. I mean, when you look at Fredericks, you can't see there's a natural backup for him.
I think I make you about right on that. I think there is no natural backup. Let's keep things going in the heart of defense. Obviously, Fabianski is a big miss. So let's turn our attention to somebody who's generated a lot of comments here on the internet over the last week or so, for better or for worse. Roberto in goal. He played against Oxford, 4 goals past him. He played again at the weekend, made a good save, I'll say that. Is his performance, do those 2 performances, is that a sign of things to come? Or, is it just in the moment and he has room to improve? Let's start with Bradley.
I'm still hungering to see David Martin, to be honest. I have that sense of joy. I want to see a Martin back in the shirt. I don't know why they haven't given it a shot. Roberto, I'm not too keen on him. I don't think we should write him off. I think he needs to get confidence. I think he will if we go against a lesser side and they don't pop too many in, or he makes a couple of decent saves. I'm a little nervous, but I'm not going to berate him on Twitter. I'm a supporter.
That's a good position to hold. Wayne, where are you?
Well, when Bradley said Roberto Martin, that's all I could think of. I mean, Martin's not a Premier League goalkeeper. He really isn't a Premier League goalkeeper. I just don't see it. I think he's a great lad, and I'm all for the history and everything. But if that's anything to go by, then I think we're kind of lumbered.
So why did we buy him?
Why did we buy him? I think we bought him for the academy. I really do. I think that's why we bought him. He's a great guy. He's a good coach. He's really good with the youth. He did an awful lot at his last club with the youth, and I think that's why we bought him. We bought him because he's part of the West Ham family, and they brought him into the fold. I also think they bought him because they figured a bunch of old Alvin Martin fans might really like the fact that we've got another Martin on the team. I think that's why it may have happened.
He's homegrown too, yeah, the homegrown factor, I think.
Exactly, it's that homegrown thing. It's like, and quite frankly, when we lose Mark Noble in a couple of years, we're going to need somebody like that that's got the heart of West Ham inside of them. I am all in favour of Roberto giving him a good chance. I wouldn't be honest if I didn't say it scared the living crappers out of me, because it does. It really does. The couple of performances that are out there, I don't know who taught him how to take a goal kick, but they didn't teach him very well. He just doesn't seem that he's really got it together. Plus that whole flapping of the hands business. I mean, I know he's Spanish and everything, but what's he trying to do? Take off and collect the ball or something? So what is this?
Huh? Wasn't that a crossed irons?
Yeah, crossed irons is solid. It's not like, oh, look at me. It's not one of those deals, is it? And that's what we used to. I mean, we used to call Fabianski Flappy Hansky when he was playing for Arsenal. But
Wayne has no idea I muted him. Chris, Chris, be the voice of reason here. What is the answer?
I'm unmuted now.
So I had actually seen a tweet on this. About this kind of topic. Someone had actually said one of the things with Roberto is that he probably wasn't facing as rigorous training as like someone like Fabianski, being someone on the bench. He was probably just being trotted through as just trying to keep fitness and everything like that. So now that he's the first choice for the time being, he will face those full-time drills and everything. And one thing I was thinking of too, if we're calling Roberto this bad, how bad must Martin be to be the third choice?
That's a nice point, Chris. That's a nice point.
Bloody awful.
Yeah. So, but regardless, just the team or the fan base needs to get behind him and support him.
So we're all in fuzzy, warm agreement that everybody's at least got to get behind him and support him, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
agreed.
West Ham family,
Definitely.
hashtag, arms around. Let's have a good cry, and yeah, it'll all be better. It'll all be better.
Cry into our beer until Fabianski gets better.
All right, so now for a real question. Who was the better band, the Beatles or the Stones? And I'm going straight to Chris on this one. I've got a good feeling, Chris. Don't let me down.
So I'm actually not too knowledgeable in the topic. I grew up listening, or not grew up, but I listened to the Beatles for quite some time. I don't have as much experience listening to the Stones, as much as that may disappoint some people, but I would have to say for me, Beatles, just based on the nostalgic factor.
All right, Chris. That's all right. That's all right. Bradley, you're up.
Depends on what mood you're in. If you want to rock out with your mom to some of the older stuff of the Beatles, that's fine. Some of the trends, like later Beatles stuff, the trippy stuff, because the world is round. That's beautiful. If I want to get moving, if I want to get my blood pumping, I listen to the Stones. There's some hype stuff. Beatles, I'd say all around, with all the great encompassing work that they have, you'd have to vote for them. But Stones is just a rock band. They take it.
How often have you rocked out with your mum, Bradley?
Well, when I'm not with my lady boys.
I think you're listening to a different band if you're rocking out with
much.
Wayne, you come from the black and white days. Right. Which one do you pick?
Oh, blimey! It's a tough question, isn't it? But you have to say the Stones are from around London, and I'm a London lad, and the Beatles are a Liverpool band. So for me, it's Stones all the way, every single day. Not only that, it's like these days anybody can produce a really good sounding record, and I think that's what the Beatles did at first. It wasn't just a decent song, but it was about the production that they had with their records as well. So anybody can do that. When you go see them live, Stones, everything. The Stones are everything. Jagger all over the place. Look at Keith Richards, for crying out loud. I mean, Keith Richards started playing guitar when he was that baby's age. And now he's about 140 years of age. He's 140 years of age, and he's completely got rigor mortis setting. Yet he still manages to bang out a tune on that guitar. Stones all the right way, baby. Stones all the way.
Was that a Man City onesie?
I don't know who let in a 3-month-old Man City supporter into this group here, but
good job he's a friend with drop kicking.
Listen, that baby's already had more excitement in its life and happy games than I ever will as a West Ham fan. So fair play to them. They stood them off. Who did the Stone support, Wayne? Do you have any idea?
I think it's a bunch of. I think I remember reading back a long time ago. I believe it was Chelsea that Mick Jagger supported.
Well, then you're immediately wrong. So no likes for you.
What's it?
I said, well, then if that's the case, you're immediately wrong. No likes.
Don't know.
I don't think they. Well, the Beatles always kept that quiet as well, whether they were Liverpool or Everton. I think there was one painting that John Lennon did as like a 9-year-old that people read into that he was a Liverpool supporter or something. But
they have full blood all over it.
Yeah, it must have been. But for me, it's the Beatles. I definitely see your point, Bradley. I'm if you want to get a bit more upbeat and get that R&B, I'm down with the Stones for sure. Beatles never made a bad album in my eyes, but that's I'm highly biased on that. We can move it along though, because this one's going nowhere. Let's get back to West Ham. It's a big question, and some would say, the answer yes would be a good answer. What would our owners sell up if major money came in?
No.
Let's start with you, Bradley. No?
I would say no. I mean, I think with David Gold, he was poor. He was selling little porn magazines on the streets. I think this has made him feel legitimate in the eyes of the world. Like owning a club that he grew up in his neighborhood. I don't think they have any interest. I think they want to pass it on to, well, at least the Sullivans want to pass it on through the family line, which we could get to later. But I don't think they want the money. I think they have enough. I think it's all about bossing their neighborhood. They want to be the lads of their neighborhood. They want to be the Peaky Blinder boys of East London.
Chris.
So for me, I actually think it's I have a little bit of a different answer. I think it all kind of depends on their age. I don't know off the top of my head how old they are, but I mean, if someone were to come in right now, probably not, but maybe a few years down the line, once they start getting up towards where they should just be kind of almost relaxing at that point, maybe they would consider selling.
I think Gold's 80. Isn't he like 80?
Exactly.
Yeah, but if they wanted to relax, surely they would have stayed in the porn business.
Yeah, fair enough.
Wayne.
I think Sullivan will sell out in a heartbeat.
Why is that?
I think I think he's all about the money. Anybody that wears a Russian hat to a game and dresses like a twat like he does would sell out in a heartbeat. I wish he would sell out. Gold, I think gold really does bleed claret and blue.
Yeah.
I think he's got a sentimentality that we can all relate to, and I think when we're all giving the owners a hard, actually felt a little bit bad for Gold. I mean, that time where they mobbed his roller and started like giving him a hard time in his Rolls Royce. You know, he's a good old geezer. But Sullivan, I think he's a piece of garbage.
And Gold's
sell
Twitter,
out. I hope he sells out.
You've seen Gold's Twitter? He's hilarious. I don't know if somebody took over that for him.
Wonderful.
Don't go to tweet.
I love the tweet of, "Am I really going to be supporting Manchester United tonight?"
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
He is pretty good on there, I gotta say. So you're saying they would sell up in a heartbeat, Wayne. So let me start this next question with yours.
I'm saying that Sullivan would sell up in a heartbeat.
So what is the purpose of Jack Sullivan's involvement in the women's team then?
That's a tough one, isn't it? Yeah. What is his purpose? I don't get it. I just don't get it. Other than the fact that he's a kid that really doesn't want to do a proper job, so they figure they let him do that. He's a little rich kid. Let him manage the women's team. They probably won't go anywhere. So
this
let's let him manage
an internship then. This isn't priming him for to take over.
God, let's hope not. Let's hope not. You remember those tweets he sent out a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
Let's hope not. If they are priming that kid to take over this team, then you know what? I think we're in deep trouble, really deep trouble.
I don't know. The women have fared pretty well, actually. I think they're doing good things in the West Ham Women's League. And I'd say on the route he's going, I'm gonna say they're priming him, and he might actually do a decent job.
Do you know how many players they lost last year at the end of the season?
They lost Vasily, and they lost 3.
All the decent ones.
No.
So I don't think he's a manager at all. I don't think he knows what he's doing. I think he's a little rich boy.
Let me bring Chris in. Chris, where are you on this one?
So yeah, I honestly I don't pay as much attention to the women's team as I probably should, but it does seem like they're trying to, in the case that he ends up passing it on to his son, they are trying to give him some experience before he steps in, so that way if he does come in, he's not coming in completely blind.
Yeah, that's a fair enough point. It's I think it's a difficult one. I'm with you a little bit on that one, Bradley. I think you got to give credit where it's due. At least off of last season, the women's team seems to be doing all right. But
the women they lost were they were chosen. They were women who weren't getting this. They weren't getting starting time. Like Vasily wanted starting time, so she went to Birmingham, which, it's like a small fish in a small pond, or big fish in a small pond. They got rid of Kamita because she was getting older. They kept Simic. They kept that Swedish girl. They kept and they brought in some new players who were ballers. So I'd say they're faring well.
Wayne, let me ask you this. So I remember those tweets as well, and it's something the whole fan base really complained about at the time. We were being too open. Any credit for knocking that on the head?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, he grew up a bit, didn't he? I mean, I think it was a case of, he was young. I think all of us, when we get out on Twitter, we've all done our stupid crap on Twitter. Everybody has.
Right.
That was the problem is that he did it really in the public's eye.
Yeah.
And we put him under a microscope because of it. So yeah, he's been much better with that. And so yeah, all credit to his dad for probably clopping him around the ear roll.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on. We've got another fun one here. Chris, I'm coming to you first because you're drinking Yuengling Light. So what is the best widely distributed beer in America today that our British viewers should perhaps know about?
So that actually was something I meant to ask you about. Did you mean that as in domestic American beer, or any beer anywhere?
No, it could be any kind of beer. It could be craft beer. It could be, Budweiser, if you really think that piss is good beer. And, something that's you can get in more than just down your local brew pub, something that you'll find outside of state lines, perhaps.
That's easier. Yeah.
So, yeah, for me, I'd probably either say the issue I have is I don't have one favorite beer.
I'm going to like that. Okay.
So for mine, I'd either say Yingling or Blue Moon.
True Pennsylvania boy there, Chris, going with Yingling.
I'm not even from Pennsylvania. My dad is.
And I am from Pennsylvania, which is the funny thing. I don't drink Yingling.
How about you then, Bradley?
I'm a Guinness guy. Guinness till I die. It's a great beer. I can get it anywhere. I'm rhyming for some reason. Maybe I finished my Ladyboy, so maybe the rhymes come out easier. The tongue loosens up.
That Ladyboy didn't last long.
Yeah, it's better when you finish her than she finishes you.
Guinness is my favorite drink, and I like Mexican beers for eating with food. So like a Dos Equis or a Corona for eating with salty food. Crawford here in New Orleans, yeah.
Wayne, are you a beer drinker? I'd see you more as a spirits drinker, but we'll ask you anyway.
I prefer my whiskey. I'm a bit of a whiskey connoisseur. I get the feeling that the beer is just causes a little bit too much of the old that stuff going on. That's the problem with beer. My big question is this with American beer, domestic beer, and I'm talking about like the mass-produced ones, and that's what I presumed you were talking about with this. Is that my question is, why would you want to milk a gnat in the first place?
It's a good question.
The
big stuff isn't very good.
Guinness all the way. It's
I want to know
it's horrible.
I want to know your opinion, John. What do you?
I was going to ask too.
Oh God, I don't know. I really like Boulevard Brewing. I think they're down by St. Louis. They do like Tank 7 Saison. I think is pretty widely distributed. I think it's a very good beer.
Oh, you're a high class guy.
I do like a Shiner.
Shiner Bock.
I do like a Shiner Bock. My wife let me taste that for the first time about 3-4 years before we came down to Texas. She said, "You'll love this beer," and I'm like, "There's no way I'm going to like an American beer." And if I'm having a beer, that's what I'll have.
That is the Texas Yingling, just so you know.
Yeah. Well, it's better than Yingling.
So, boys, Carlos Sanchez obviously is not a football player. So, good segue, right? He's not a football player. So, what sport should he try outside of football that he may actually be good at? Wayne?
Netball.
Netball. You may have to explain that to our American viewers.
Well, it's like basketball, only it's more boring. It's because he can't do anything with his feet. It can't be a game where he uses his feet for anything. So, and it can't be on a pitch that's more than 50 feet long because he can't keep up with anybody. Okay, so that's the second reason why he shouldn't be doing it. He has to be better with his hands than he would with his feet. Plus, I'm looking at some of those old those old basketball things from the ABA from like years and years and years ago with those big fro haircuts, and I think he'd go really good with that. So he's the man is just somebody buy him a guitar and put him on the bench.
Chris.
See, I struggled when I saw this question earlier. Like I cannot think of one, but as long as
that's also an acceptable answer, Chris. Yeah. That's also an acceptable answer.
Not defending involved.
So
like golf, he'll be good at.
And golf. Maybe like paragliding.
MMA fighter.
Oh,
the way he takes down people, and I actually met him in person to have my picture. It was the one picture I actually didn't post online to brag about. So he was sweet enough to take it with me. He smiles. He's got a beautiful smile, but this dude was thick. When I met him, he's the thickest ball player I saw. Only Ogbonna was bigger than him, or maybe Antonio, but this dude has muscle. So I figured he'd be pretty scrappy in a fight. The way he takes down people, and not so much in a classical football sense, but more in a brutal La Roca, whatever they call him sense. Yeah, he's an MMA all the way. And some and not just like televised. I think like under a bridge, like a mixed martial arts under a bridge.
Underground cage fighting. I like it.
Yeah.
I've got some friends from back home that would love to do an MMA fight with him under a bridge. Let me tell you.
That's a brilliant answer. We got 2 questions left. Looks like we're going to run over our time a little bit, but I think we're having fun, and hopefully the people out there are having fun listening to this ridiculousness as well. Why is Jack Wilshere on the bench, Bradley?
We need a glass cabinet. He's. I think they're afraid to put him out. I think they're saving him. They keep just bringing him in, take him out, bringing him in, taking him out. I think he's the backup number 10 for Lanzini and almost now for Niles, which is sad that he's dropped so low. I love him. I think he's class on the ball if he could just be fit and get some good playing time. But yeah, I think he's dropping into Nasri level. Where it's like this once beautiful player is now kind of like there for backup and hopes. He's there for hopes.
Chris, is he hopes and dreams, or is there something else going on?
So, like I touched on earlier, was consistency, and you can't just keep taking him in and out. And right now, you cannot take out Declan Rice, and right now you cannot take out Mark Noble. So we just have to. We're building that chemistry, especially in the midfield, and I think it's still fear over injury concerns. Like throw him out there once, and he's done for the season potentially.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Wayne.
I think he'll come into his own when we win the FA Cup this year.
Ooh, is he the FA Cup player?
I think he's going to be the champion of the FA competition. I think that's what they're saving him for. I think they know how much the fans really want a cup. We desperately want it. That anybody was going to take the seriously, because we don't. Even when it was the Milk Cup, nobody took it serious. So I think they're saving him for that. He's a brilliantly skilled player. I love the man. He's West Ham through and through. I think we'll give him a great chance based him on the games when we've got other players that can play those Premier League games. And you look at the first couple of matches he played, they just ganged up on him and they nobbled him and they kicked him and they pushed him down, and it's too much of a risk. Save him for the cups.
That's a very, very good point. And I think he'll definitely, he's already featured in some of those games. The only thing I worry about is play him in a cup game and you play him against somebody or these teams that are 2 divisions below us that are bigger cloggers than anybody you're going to find in the Premier League. And, that's an injury waiting to happen. But as everybody's pointed out, he's a great player. And I hope he does have a solid future at West Ham because on his day, man, he's in the England team. He's first on the team sheet on his day. But
he was brilliant. I hated watching him when he played for Arsenal because he just was so bloody good.
Yeah. He's one of the few players that can let a ball run across him and just anyway.
Agreed.
Chris, final question.
Even though he does that funny thing with his tongue when he's on camera, doesn't he? Does that?
Yeah.
Hey, Michael Jordan used to do that for the Chicago
all the time. It's a bit weird.
Sign of greatness. Chris, we're going to start with you with the last question. How important is it that we beat Palace? We're kind of at not at a turning point in our season, but we're getting close to that 10-game threshold there where people start figuring out who's doing what and what our season is going to look like. So how important is it on the results that are coming into this game and also for what that says about our season?
Yeah, see, coming into this game, I think it actually is a pretty important match. It'll set the pace for the rest of the season. And like you said, this is kind of where everyone starts figuring each other out, like kind of sizing each other up. And I actually did a little bit of looking. And with a win, we can rise as high as 3rd place if everything goes our way. Lose, and depending on goal difference and obviously other results, we can fall as low as 10th or 11th. So that it's that big of a gap. So if we really want to show that we're serious and make the top, even potentially the top 6 worried, we have, this is an important game.
Wayne?
For me, it's everything. It's the medal tester. We've had a couple of really not stellar matches where possibly we should have done better. If we don't step up against Palace, I think it's a sign of things to come, especially now with Roberto in the back there. We have to step up. And if we don't step up against Palace, then it'll be another 8, 9, 10 type of season. If we step up against Palace, however, though, and show that what we're made of, then I think we can push all the way. And I don't see any reason why we can't make top 4 if we can thump them. But I want to thump them. I want to see a 4-2 win.
That's a bold statement, Bradley.
I would say the only reason Palace is important to us is, one, for consistency, to just show we have some damn consistency for once. And for 2, that our new, as Allardyce would call it, our new tippy-tap style of football can play against these physical teams who are more defensive, against an English manager who's playing that straight way. But as far as Palace is concerned, I don't think they're a bellwether because we usually do pretty good against them. We usually turn up against them. For me, it would be Brighton, which we already tied with. The actual team, I'd say, was more important to show who we are. Like when we go to beat one of our bogeymans, that's really, I think, what shows what we've become. Beating Palace, we've always done that, or we can do that easily. So more, for me, it's a test in consistency and to see that our style, Pellegrini's style, can go against an old class English style.
That's a good point.
John, can I interject here real quick?
Please.
I lived in South London. So for me, beating Palace is everything.
You're a London card now, yeah.
Yeah, I am pulling a London card. For me, beating Palace is everything. They're a London team. I would like nothing better than to watch Rebecca Lowe cry on NBC Sports. I really would. I would love to see that.
Should I give a like to that? I feel bad giving a like to that.
Rebecca Lowe.
So, all right, let's go around and do predictions then. Wayne, we're going to beat them, obviously, right?
4-2.
4-2. Chris?
3-2.
3-2. Bradley?
2-1.
Everyone's got us winning. Everybody's got us winning. This is the most confident we've been as a fan base in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
In a long time.
Which probably means that we should lose, right, John?
It's snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, yeah. So
Yeah.
that would be right up our street. But I'm with you guys, man. I think this is it's a test of character for me. Who are we? What's our identity? Are we going to be consistent? Are we a team that can show up against these other teams that we've struggled? Maybe not Palace themselves, but that kind of middle table team that we struggled on in the past. Yeah, let's go and do the business. We need Allaire to get off the score sheet again.
Yeah.
I think I'm with you, Bradley. I got 2-1 on this one, and hopefully Allaire and I don't know, maybe Carlos Sanchez's MMA opponent. Last minute sub and score the winner. Boys, this has been a lot of fun. There can only be one winner. Totals are really close, I've got to say. There's been a lot of bare hands flying around. Gotta be careful for those. Bradley, I got you winning. You've won by like a point. Just a point. I'm not going to say you were second. You guys can figure that one out later on. I will give you the floor. You can rant. You can tell us all to finish our beers, or we could just end right now. But the floor is yours, sir.
I'd say I enjoyed this very much. Y'all are very good. I'll be watching over at Finn McCool's. You can come there. It's off of Bank Street. Wayne helped me produce that last time, get some people out there. We've had Wally World, who's responding in the comments. Wally World, you're very hilarious. I love you. Great guy. Some other great comments. Mississippi Hammers, much love to you. Come and see us at Finn McCool's. We'd love to have you. Thank you very much for this whole American support team. It's really great to have y'all and the English American bridge. The lady boys got me crossing my fingers in a funny way. So, yeah,
I don't do that.
Get down to Finn McCool's, kids, if you're in New Orleans. Everybody else, thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you. If you haven't subscribed yet, click the subscribe button. This is American Hammers TV, and we'll catch you next time on Friday Night Lights. Thank you all.
come on, you irons.
Come on, you Irons.
Cheers, West Ham.